Hi, this is Overcoming Carbs, and today I'm introducing you to my wife. This is Laura, and we've been doing the carnivore diet since April 24th. And to give you a little update of where we're at right now, where I'm at right now, she'll give you an update. I am at 75 pounds lost, but had a weird thing happen this week where I weighed myself and I gained 5 pounds, and I don't know why, but anyway, it's something that will happen. Your body's going to go into the mode where it thinks it's starving itself, and it'll balance out and it'll start losing again. I'm not fearful that I'm not going to start losing or anything like that, or I've stopped for good. Haven't changed anything on the diet. Still eating one meal a day and beef most of the time, some chicken here and there, and some eggs, but and some pork. But the it's just been an interesting week, but I wanted to take this opportunity to let you all know that don't get discouraged. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. Your body will adjust. Your body will start losing again. But right now, the main purpose of this is to let everybody know about Laura.
Hello.
And Laura's going to give you an introduction of who she is, what she's been doing, why she went on the carnivore diet with me, and I'll let her take it from here.
I'm Laura, Ron's wife. I went on the carnivore diet because I have been dealing with all kinds of thyroid issues for how many years now?
Well, the thyroid
Forever.
issue's been going on 12 years.
12 years. Yeah, like 12 years. Well, actually, before 12 years, that's just since I had it
Removed.
removed.
Right.
I had it irradiated. But let's just put it this way. We have a soon to be 24-year-old son, and the majority of his life, I was trying to figure out what was going on with me or dealing with the aftermath of figuring out what was going on with me. So I think I've been dealing with it all since he was like 2. So a long time. But Ron had come to me one day, and it's so weird how things work out because I follow Keto in Court on Instagram, Stacy, and she had just gone to KetoCon, and she was talking about, how there are various and sundry different kind of views and things that people were following, all of them either keto or carnivore of some sort. And she mentioned Ken Berry, Dr. Ken Berry. So then he had seen things on carnivore and he had seen Dr. Ken Berry, and he was mentioning it to me. I was like, oh yeah, Stacy was just talking about that on Keto in Court. So I kind of already heard a little bit about it. And the old me, if someone would have come to me, like in my 30s and said, hey, do you want to eat meat and eggs forever? I'd be like, ew, no. Because I was raised in I think we ate vegetables and everything, but my family
Chicken.
is chicken. Yes. Dry chicken breast is the holy meat in our family. I mean, it's like beef was kind of like tolerated, pork, meh, but carbs and chicken. You need chicken and you need something to get the chicken washed down with, like mashed potatoes or baked potato or anyway, salad. And then also carbs. I think I was probably the least carby person because I've always been sort of health conscious and weight conscious since I was a kid. Like to exercise, try to eat healthy. I would have sweets sometimes, and I really, really liked sweets, but I always tried to kind of control it. So, and I like to walk, and I would like just go exercise because I wanted to. So I was always, pretty healthy, but that was more how I was raised. So it would not have been in my nature to seek out a diet eating meat and eggs because, I could live on side dishes, the old me. So anyway, but given all of my health issues, I've really learned to be flexible with food. I'm like, it is literally just food. And when you've had a time when food can threaten your life, you really, really come to see that it's just food. And you don't want those things. I have a gluten intolerance or a gluten allergy. I have celiac. If I eat gluten, I cannot breathe and I swell up. And that's not good. People are like, but gosh, how could you give up gluten? Don't you want to cheat? No, because I like to breathe. So I've kind of learned to be flexible with it. And I've also learned to like meat and learned to like eggs. So, yeah, when Ron was telling me, a lot of people who've had autoimmune issues, they have had a lot of luck with the carnivore diet. I was like, why not try it? I mean, what do I have to lose? So I was like, yeah, I'm all in. And I was happy about the fact too that it was something that he thought he could do. Now, he was the opposite position of me. It wasn't a real difficult. I mean, I think it's difficult for anybody at first to think about, okay, I'm only going to eat meat in a way. There's just that aspect of it. But he likes meat a lot more than I normally would like meat. So I don't think it was kind of as bad for him. I think it was doable for him. He saw it as doable.
You had to push me into it.
Yeah. So it'd be like if someone said to me, you're going to be on a diet, you're going to have to eat a lot of potatoes. I'd be like, okay. But so yeah, we were both, I think it was the timing was right. It was right for him. It was right for me. So yeah, we went all in. And I'm kind of like, if I don't stick to it, then I'll never know what could be. So I really am in the mode of sticking to it. So so far it has, do you want me to go a little further or to like kind of, our dog is
Wanting to be
in here wanting attention, and she's one of those like really needy.
Hi.
You see her head going in and out. She looks like a giant fruit bat. Anyway, she also likes the carnivore diet. But for me personally, with all of my thyroid issues, one of the things that I really have dealt with, even though I've been like strictly keto for 12 years, 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I really dealt with was inflammation, because that goes along with my whole thyroid issue and with my Hashimoto's. Both those, if anyone has autoimmune, they know inflammation is a big factor. And one of the things I get is like I swell. Like sometimes I wear my rings, sometimes I can't wear my rings. Sometimes I literally cannot stand to have a necklace on or a bracelet because of inflammation. And my joints hurt, and that's something I've dealt with. I'll wake up some mornings when I was doing keto and my face will be swollen. I'm like, why is my face swollen? I get that from gluten, but I am really strict on that. What I eat, what touches my food, what I use to cook with, everything. So I didn't realize at the time, because I was eating salads and I was still eating like ranch dressing. Well, seed oils and all the things that are ranch dressing, of course, that's going to affect inflammation. But I would eat a salad with ranch dressing and go, okay, I'm counting my carbs. It's in my carbs. Oh, why am I still swollen? So anyway, since I've started the carnivore diet, my inflammation has gone down so much. I mean, rings, I can wear rings I couldn't wear before, along with weight loss. I've lost 15 pounds, which before I had the hardest time losing.
You haven't lost.
No, well, I would lose like maybe 2 pounds in,
but it would come back
6 months. But I would never, yeah. If I stayed within my carbs, sometimes I would lose like in a month, maybe I'd lose a pound. And I'd be like, okay, this is it. I'm starting to make some progress. I'm losing weight. And then it would just like turn around and come back. And I'm like, it took me a month to lose that pound. It was so discouraging. And then, you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, you really need to lose weight. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying so hard to lose weight that, and just very frustrating, because you're just always trying. You hope you're getting somewhere, and then it's like if you're playing a board game and they keep sending you back to the beginning of the game, reset. You're like, oh, and other people are like, oh, I cut out, my frappuccinos and I've lost 10 pounds. And I'm like, that's not fair. That's so unfair. So those are just some of the things I've noticed. Joint pain. I had so much joint pain before. If I like painted my toenails and I usually wear Crocs around the house, left my Crocs off and just like walked around a little, go and get a drink or go and do something while my toenails were drying. The next day, my feet hurt so bad. My feet were just killing me the next day. Or going grocery shopping. They hurt while I shopped. They hurt that night. They hurt the next day. Now I can go like shopping and run errands. My feet aren't killing me. So I think just a lot of that inflammation And again, getting 15 pounds off, it really has helped. I'm also, I think something Ron hasn't mentioned is I've gained all this weight throughout my whole thyroid thing, trying to figure out doctors, trying to figure out medicine, trying to figure out diet. And I am 4'8". That is not very tall. And that is another frustrating thing. I'm like, how many times can the fat circle around my body? I'm like, well, at least my legs still look good. And I'm like, well, nope, it's hitting the legs. Second time around on the arms, oh, the face is getting a third. I mean, when you're short, you see every single ounce. So, anyway, the other thing that I have had with all my thyroid things is stomach issues. I've had like stomach aches when I eat, no matter what I eat. Ron would be like, if we're gonna go out and run errands, he'd be like, do you want to eat before we go? And I'd be like, do I want to go out and have a stomach ache, or do I want to go out and be hungry? Those were kind of my choices. Because my stomach was always, it had been messed up ever since before I had my thyroid out. Before I had my thyroid out, I could eat frozen waffles and plain boiled chicken and potatoes. Those are the three things. Otherwise, I would get such an upset stomach that I would actually lose a ton of weight in like days. So when we started the carnivore diet, I did notice I had more indigestion for a while. And I felt like my stomach kind of had another bout with indigestion and kind of churning. And I was like, oh no, I feel like this is really working. I've lost some weight. And I'm like, am I going to have to go off of this now? And then we heard Dr. Ken Berry talking about what to do if you're having stomach issues, that some people have stomach issues initially, and talking about digestive enzymes and that have the ox bile. So I was like, well, let's give it a go. Let's try it. And as soon as I started taking those, I felt so much better. And I was on those for like 2 weeks, and I didn't even have to take them anymore. One of the other issues I had was I had in all the search for what was wrong with me before I realized it was my thyroid, they decided to take out my gallbladder because that kind of runs in my family. They're like, let's try the gallbladder. Let's get rid of your gallbladder. It's a junk organ. It doesn't do anything. We'll just take it out and see if that helps. And I was so desperate then. I was very sick at the time. I was like, whatever. If something will help me, whatever. So we did that. And Dr. Ken Berry, when he was talking about the digestive issues, he said if you've had your gallbladder out, that affects your digestion. No one had ever told me that. I'd never heard it before. So here I am without a gallbladder and without a thyroid, and no one had ever said to me, hey, none of the doctors I'd seen, when you eat, does your stomach hurt? Try taking these enzymes. I mean, it's such a simple thing. So that's another reason we're doing this. I want to be the person that spreads the word. Ron wants to be the person. If there's somebody out there and, you're just going through the doctor and they're handing you the thyroid meds or whatever you're dealing with, just giving you meds and not getting into details, maybe we can be the people that give you the detail that can help you. Like for me, I finally learned after all these years, oh, I'm not crazy. My stomach hurts because I don't have the enzymes I need to break things down because of
producing the bile like you should.
Yeah. So anyway, those are just some of the things that have helped me with the carnivore diet, my digestion, inflammation, my joints. I'm sure getting the weight off and getting the inflammation down. And, I think just having hope that I can lose weight. Hope that I'll keep improving. It's just hope is such a wonderful thing. And I feel like I've been given a new hope with all this. So I was trying to think what else we were going to discuss.
We're going to talk about your doctor.
Oh, and on the same topic of helping other people, one of the things I came up against with is the one size fits all treatment. And I know that's not just me. We have a son who's type 1 diabetic, and the more people you talk to, there's such a one size fits all treatment. And I know I got that initially with my thyroid. I got that when I was really sick, and I was telling them how sick I was and I don't know what's wrong with me, give them my symptoms, and they were like, well, I think you're just a tired mom. You're just a stressed out, tired mom. I'm like, no, I'm not stressed out. I'm sick. And then when I had, was trying to figure out my thyroid, I was very dismissed. I went to so many doctors trying to figure it out. And then finally figured it out. And then it was like starting the second half of my battle, because one size fits all treatment. It was like, here's your Synthroid, go home. I don't want to hear it. And I would go to the doctor at the hospital where I took my radioactive iodine, and I was so saturated. They did a scan on me. I was so saturated with thyroid hormone because the guy that ran that department said that I had the angriest thyroid he'd ever seen in all his years of the business. And it was all the way down in my feet, my legs, my whole body was saturated because it was just cranking. So when I had my thyroid out, my doctor was just, I went to the doctor there, the endocrinologist there, and he was just like, here's your Synthroid. And I, came back and I was like, so I'm really confused because my hair's still falling out. My fingernails were just broken off to where they're bleeding, and they would just shred and shred. My skin was so dry. My joints hurt so bad. I couldn't even go to the grocery store anymore. I couldn't walk that much. I was just dying in pain. I'd get out of bed to go to the bathroom and my joints and feet hurt. And I would tell the doctor this, and I was gaining weight, and I was eating I'm like, if I just eat salads, maybe, I was going back to anything I thought in the past that any of my knowledge of what do you do when you want to lose weight? Salads, I'll eat salads. And I told my doctor, I'm just eating salads, but I'm gaining weight and my hair's fine. No, you're fine. You're fine. And I'm like, no. He's like, no, your numbers are where they need to be. You're in the normal range and you're fine. And I'm like, this isn't what fine feels like. And of course I got online and read, and I told him, I'm like, I've read, and they said some people need to take a different medicine, or some people need to be in a different range. Just being in range isn't optimal. No, you need to stop reading. No, stop reading. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. And he would tell me I was fine and I was in range, but to come back, what was I going every 2 weeks then?
I go every 2 months.
Well, first I started out every 2 weeks. And then I guess at that point I was going every 2 months. So he would tell me to come back. And finally one day I was so mad. I was coming home feeling like garbage. And I'm like, I was crying, and not the sad cry, like the angry cry, the bad one. And I was like, why is he just giving me the same song and dance, same medicine, telling me I'm fine, but he's like, come back. I'm like, if I'm in optimal range and I'm supposed to be doing great, I shouldn't need to come back for 6 months or a year. So like, when I get home, I'm going to call and ask. I'm going to ask the nurse. And so I got home and I called and I said, I just have a question. He said that no, I didn't tell her. He said that I'm arranged. I said, I wanted to know, why do I need to come back in 2 months? Why do I need to come back in 2 months? And she's like, oh, let me go ask him. And so she went and asked him, and she came back. She goes, oh, because your numbers aren't in range. So he told me my numbers were in range. Then he turned around and told me my numbers weren't in range, and that's why I need to come back. So I'm like, you're lying somewhere, because I can't be in range and out of range. So that's just some of the things I dealt with. From there, I went to another doctor. I talked to a friend of mine. She's like, oh yeah, I have this doctor. He's really good. I was there maybe 5 minutes. I told him, I'm gaining weight. My hair is falling out. I'm exhausted. I can't function. I had 2 small kids at that time. I can't function. I remember just like looking at the dishes and feeling like it was running a marathon. I would just cry. I was like, I cannot get in there and do those dishes. And I wanted to. I just wanted to be normal. And so I went to this doctor, and he saw me like just a couple of minutes, and he was like, well, my advice would be quit eating cheeseburgers and drinking Cokes and exercise, or you could go get your stomach stapled. And I was just dumbfounded. I was so shocked. Now I would have said something to him. But I was so shocked I couldn't even speak. I just left. I would have gone to the front desk and go, I refuse to pay for that. I absolutely refuse to pay for that. I will not pay for that. But I just went through the motions and left stunned. Finally, I had taken my boys one day. They wanted Chick-fil-A really bad. So I went through and got me a salad at this place where I know they're gluten-free. And I was like, no tortilla chips on it because the tortilla chips have gluten. So I get my salad, then we go over to Chick-fil-A, sitting at Chick-fil-A, and I open my salad and there's tortilla chips. That's how I said to my sons, I go, well, just go ahead and eat your food, and then I'll take my salad back on the way home and, get one without the chips because it has gluten. And this lady was sitting right next to us and she goes, oh, you can't have gluten either? And I go, no. We start talking and I told her about the gluten thing and then how I had to have my thyroid out. What a nightmare. She's like, I know where you need to go. You need to go to this doctor. She can fix all the weird, strange thyroid things. She'll listen to you. And I was like, really? And so she's telling me all about this lady. And I was thinking when she's telling me this, and I remembered earlier, a few months earlier or so, being in a grocery store, and I talked to another lady and she had told me about this doctor too. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? This other lady told me about her as well. I said, and she was telling me, the lady in Chick-fil-A was like, well, the only thing is she does not take most insurance. And I was like, and that's why I didn't go. Well, the lady told me in the grocery store. So later I got home and Ron came home and I was telling him, the second person that was just out in public told me I need to go to this doctor, and that she's really good with, hard to figure out cases and things, and she can figure it out. So I said, the only thing is she shouldn't take insurance. So, I mean, that's going to be crazy. He said, I think we were paying at the time, like every time I went to this cuckoo doctor, $40 or $50. And he's like, we are paying $40 or $50 every time. You can't function. And I was just crying all the time because I didn't feel good. All my hormones were whacked out. Ron was living with this woman who was just, I felt out of control and hopeless. I had kids, dogs. He was working a job at the time that he had this horrible boss. So everything was just kind of nuts. And you know how they say happy wife, happy life? It's sort of true. And I was just, I feel like we were just all in survival mode. So he's like, no, you're going to go and you're going to go talk to her. You want me to keep on? Or so I made an appointment. And by this point, I had developed almost a fear of doctors because I'd been told, oh, you're just a tired mom. One doctor told me after doctor I'd seen had my all these thyroid issues. He's like, you're very emotional, aren't you? I'm like, yes, I am. Of course I am. I've been sick forever. So I go to see my doctor and I want to have hope. I really do. But I was just very guarded. At the time when I saw her, I think largely because I think especially at this time, I think we've sort of had a change in things somewhat. But at this time, I think it was really rare to find a doctor that would listen to you, especially if you had kind of a special case. So her waiting room, oh my goodness, it was just like packed. She really listens to you and she takes time. And I think that's such an unusual thing. So it was packed out. I had to wait. Do you remember how that first appointment? Hours.
It was probably about a 4 or 5 hour wait.
Yeah. And I just sat there. I didn't care. And I thought, if there's this many people waiting, there's got to be something. I mean, people aren't going to just wait for nothing. One lady was really angry and she got up and started storming around and screaming about having to wait. And I heard her talk to her and she was like, maybe I'm not for you. I have to take time for people, but you got to be willing to wait. I will give you the same time. If I'm not for you, I can refer you to someone. She's like, yes, refer me. And so she referred her to someone. She left. And I was like, whatever, I'm staying. So I got in there and I started crying.
Well, you've been through a lot, and you're hopeful because of what you've heard about this doctor.
So, she came in and she was compassionate towards me. And that was the first compassion I had seen, except for the person that helped me with my RAI. They were very sweet. But then, as far as a doctor, that was the first compassion. And then she asked me what was going on. And I told her everything, and she was like, so I said, all I've tried is Synthroid, and it doesn't work for me. I told her about my pain and everything. She's like, why don't you try anything else? I'm like, no one will let me. No one will let me try anything else. No one will listen to me.
Okay,
and my dog's coming because she hates it.
It's okay.
But I'm like, no one will listen. No one will let me try anything with Synthroid. Every doctor I've gone to wants me to try Synthroid, and that's what I've been on now forever. I'm just miserable. And she's like, well, you know what? We're going to run labs, and I'm going to get you on something else. We're going to find something that works for you, and I'm going to help you. And she felt my hands. And she's like, yeah, your hands are all sweaty and clammy. Yeah, you're way off. I can look at you and tell that you're way off. I understand. And she's had her thyroid out too.
Yeah.
And she was just so kind and helpful. And every time I went to her, she'd look at my labs, and she ran my T4 and my T3. She ran everything. That's the other thing with these other doctors that absolutely refuse to run a full panel. I would say, I'm reading on this, and you need to run a full panel on me to see. Nope, it's not necessary. And I'm like, but could you please? Because I don't. Nope, they just absolutely refused. And she's like, no, I'll run a full panel. We're gonna see. We're gonna get you optimal. I'm gonna help you. And she was just like an angel. She hugged me. And she treats everyone that way. She treats everybody that way. So it was like, a light in the darkness finally. And did I have to wait when I went to see her? Now the wait's not so bad. It's still, fairly long, but it's nothing like it used to be. But yeah, she has helped me so much. And
First doctor to put you on armor.
yeah, she's the first doctor that put me on armor. And she's like, oh my gosh, Laura, when she saw my numbers, she's like, no wonder you feel terrible. It's no wonder you feel terrible. And I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy, because when everybody's just like, what? No, just take this little pill. I mean, I knew when I read about, I'm a reader and I'm a researcher. So before I had my thyroid out, I read everything. And I was like, okay, this could be, scary. This could be a long road ahead. But what they told me with my thyroid, is that it was so bad, it was already attacking my heart, and I wasn't sleeping at all. I was like literally not sleeping. That was the other thing. Before I had my thyroid out, my resting heart rate was
144 beats a minute.
Yeah, 144 beats a minute. I remember if I try and sleep, I'd lay there and I could just hear my heart boom, 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 boom. And
But a lot faster.
yeah, but and I felt stressed all the time because you're cranking thyroid hormones. So I was like stuck in fight or flight. And it was just like a nightmare, especially with kids. And then you feel all this mom guilt because you can't do all the things with your kids. I got to the point I couldn't write. At the end, I could not write. So my son, he was still little, and he'd have to like fill out if Ron was working, he'd have to fill out their soccer forms to play soccer. When I go register them, I'd still try and take them, and they'd be like, "Oh, Mom, can we go to Walmart and look at the toys?" And I'm like, "No, Mom doesn't feel good." And I'd have to tell my oldest son, if I ever pass out, and if we're ever out, Mom passes out, you need to hold your brother's hand and call your dad or call me mom. You know, it's just crazy. Feeling so guilty because you're trying to get help, but you can't. So anyway, that's just part of my whole journey. So the other thing I would encourage people, if you are having a health issue, do not be afraid to change your doctor. Talk to people. There's so much at our fingertips now with the internet and everything. Find groups, talk to people, reach out, and it's worth it. I remember thinking when I went to my doctor, I don't think I could tell another doctor my story. I don't think I can sit there and tell him my story and have him, you know, tell me no, or it's just your imagination, or I just literally to even tell it, I was like, I just can't keep doing this. I mean, I think it was worse than dating. You know how dating, it's so bad. Finding a doctor became worse than, I'm like, this is worse than finding a husband. But it's worth it. It is so worth it. Everyone deserves to be heard and to be treated right. And, you know, sometimes I still have to say to myself, would you take that? Would you take this if someone's talked to you that way or did that? Like I go get my blood drawn all the time because my thyroid stuff. And sometimes the people can be kind of nasty. A lot of times you have the sweetest, nicest people. And I'm like, would you take that if they were doing that to your son? No. So don't accept it for yourself. You don't have to be nasty, but you can say, no, my doctor did send over the paperwork for my blood work. She sent it twice, as a matter of fact. You need to look again. You know, stand up for yourself, speak up for yourself, look for another doctor, read, inform yourself. If a doctor says to you, don't read, don't talk to people about it, that should be your first clue to run as fast as you can. That would be, you know, another piece of, if anybody in life tells you, oh yeah, don't read, don't inform yourself, anybody in any situation,
take what I say and
just listen to me and do it. I'm like, no. So, you know, the whole thing, I have learned so much. Ron, you guys see this aspect of Ron, but he's the best husband. And I've been so lucky because he stood by me through all this, because there was a huge divorce rate with people who have chronic illness. There's a huge divorce rate. And he's stood by me. We've been through some really stressful times, and he's cooked, he's taking care of kids, he's taking care of dogs. When I was really hyperthyroid, I would get really fixated. It's one of the things. And like, I would like want the kids to have perfect Halloween pictures in their costumes. And he would go, and I'd need help. He'd go with me and get the pictures and the costumes. I wanted their picture with our dogs, each of our dogs and their puppies. He's carried Labrador retrievers through a mall, big Labrador retriever puppies through a mall, and helped me dress kids in outfits and put the dogs in the labs in a boat in a children's photo studio. You know, he's just been amazing. He's gone to doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment. My doctor talks, I talk fast. My doctor makes me sound like I have a slow Southern drawl. At first, Ron was like, well, have her write it down. I'm like, that's worse than the talking. The writing, and I understand because my brain and her brain work very similar. She's like, have you tried this? Oh, wait, no. No, wait, I tried this. No. Oh, wait, this. Oh, I know. And you're kind of like, sometimes I feel like my brain can't even keep up. And I'm not a numbers person. So then she starts spewing numbers, and I'm like, all the words so fast. Now numbers can't keep up, especially when I get stressed. You know, so Ron will go with me if I need him to. And he's like, I'm like, did you get that? He's like, yep, got it. And I'm like, oh my God. Because I feel like at a point my brain just goes to like the fuzz on the TV, the screen, when it just fuzzes out.
White noises.
Yeah. Mine just goes clicking off. I can't handle this anymore. Especially when I was really sick. So anyway, if I can lose weight and I can get my inflammation down, someday I'll be brave and put up pictures of me in the past. Just, I mean, maybe not even I can see the weight difference, but like just the swollen face, just,
Oh, you used to swell after you ate.
oh yeah, I would eat and just swell
Almost
up.
like an allergic reaction, but there wasn't
Yeah.
anything you
It was
actually
almost
ate.
like anaphylactic. It was
Well, it
so
wasn't that
weird.
bad, but
No, but I'm saying it would be fast.
yeah, it would.
It would be fast. And if I ever ate, before I realized, like, carbs, my body, it may want I don't even think it wants them anymore, hardly, because I know the damage it does. But if I ate something very kind of carb dense, you see all these gluten-free things, and they're even more carb dense than regular foods. And I would eat, like, Udi's had like a cinnamon roll. I was like, oh, a cinnamon roll, yum. And this was
Free cinnamon.
yeah, this was before I went low carb or keto. I ate, it was like a knot sitting in my body. And the next morning I woke up and I was just like, my face, like I could feel it. It hurt. It was like you could feel the swelling. Your face hurts. And my hands would hurt. And you're just like, ugh, there's nothing worse, nothing worth this. Um, but there is hope out there. I'm so grateful that we have the internet. People talk about there's good and bad about the internet. There's some bad things, but I think the tremendous amount of information out there, things can really save your life. And then there's also just people helping people. We talk about women, instead of being against each other, competitive, help each other. We need to help each other. Two women, I don't even remember them. They helped me so much because they told me about my doctor. I have a friend, and she called me one day and she said, a client of mine is having horrible, horrible thyroid problems. And I told him, you will know where to go. And he's like, oh, please. She said, he just called me and was like, please, can you get me that information today? So she called me and I was like, yeah. And I immediately got it to her because I know the feeling. And I'm sure he went to see my doctor because, there's just not that many doctors like that out there. I think it's getting better. Our son went to a children's hospital when he was diagnosed, and oh my goodness, his endo through that children's hospital was amazing. And he got to see him for a couple of years before he aged out. And oh my gosh, I almost cried. You're probably like, I'm not shocked, but I almost cried when we left that doctor because he was so wonderful. He was a wonderful doctor. So there are wonderful doctors out there too. Um, it's just finding them. And we've been really blessed, like I said, by my doctor, that doctor, and yeah, and blessed by finding out about this diet's helped me so far. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she's like, well, you're not going to stick to it, are you? And I'm like, I don't have any plans not to. I mean, it's working really well for me. If something's working, why would I change it? So as far as I'm concerned, I'll be sticking to this forever because it's the best I've felt so far on this diet. So anyway, is there anything you want to add?
Well, I just want to say that find a doctor that will work with you. Find somebody that is willing to work with how you are feeling, how the numbers are coming across, not just pushing medication. We're not doctors, we're not medical experts or anything like that, and this shouldn't be taken as medical advice or anything like that. It's just what we're going through in life and how we're dealing with this type of situation. It's not anything that says, well, they said to do this. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying you need to find somebody that'll work with you and give you the advice you need and advice that you can work
And
with.
listen to you.
And we'll listen to everything that's going on because they're human. Dr. Barry even says that doctors are human. I mean, they don't know everything. We don't know everything. I mean, yeah, they went to school for a long time to know what they know, yes. But, we all get stuck in our ways sometimes, and sometimes the easiest solution is not the best solution. And sometimes the easiest solution is just to push a drug. And we have found out that through a lot of our research that basically there's probably a lot that we could have done back in 2011 that probably could have saved her thyroid. Don't know that for sure, but it would have been worth the opportunity to do it if we would have known. But nobody ever told us about magnesium and
No.
iodine
Yeah,
supplements.
that's the other thing that through all this we've heard about magnesium, and that's helped me so much. So much magnesium has.
So what we're
And
trying
it's
to
such a
do,
simple fix.
yeah, what we're trying to do right now is get her to a point where her body is receptive to the thyroid, because right now, I mean, she, she's taking a beta blocker to counteract the effects of the thyroid, because she's on 120 milligrams of thyroid just to get her numbers up. Well, most people don't take 120 milligrams, and her doctor calls her a unicorn. So we're having to counteract things that are going on in her body. Well, the beta blocker slows down her heart rate, slows down her metabolism. So she's fighting not only the thyroid that handles all of our metabolism that she doesn't even have. She's having to artificially simulate that, and she's having it reduced by the beta blocker. So we want to get her to a point where she's not having to take so much thyroid, so we can get her off the beta blocker, so her heart rate's not being affected. One thing though that did come up recently is that she no longer has to take a blood pressure medicine. So we've gotten that out of her system, and that's one less pill. Just like I'm no longer taking blood pressure medicine, I'm no longer taking gout medicine. There's really not much.
At one time I was taking how many pills?
5 different.
5 different pills.
And now you're what, 3?
Now I'm taking well, I take my thyroid pill and then the other one.
The propanolol.
2 pills, but
yeah,
twice a day.
So now you're down to 2.
Yeah, now I'm down to 2 pills. What? So I still go to the doctor pretty much every 2 months.
It's 3 months.
3 months. 3 months. Still blood work all the time. But and I've been doing, going to the doctor. It's crazy when you think about it. Like every 3 months for how many years now?
Well, since 2011. Well, before 2011, it was 2010. I mean, you had it done in 2011.
Yeah.
So I guess since 2011, you've been going every 2 to 3 months.
Yeah. So
there has not been a time that you have not had 4 or 5 visits in a year with the doctor.
No. Crazy to think about. I can remember when I first had my thyroid out, my kids were small, and I would go to the hospital to get my blood work up. That's where I had to go. So the time that it was slowest was like in the early hours of the morning. So we would go early in the morning, and that's when he was working for the horrible boss. And horrible. He deserves an award. Anyway, I would take the
This
kids.
was years ago.
This was years ago. Yes, this was years and years and years ago. Well, my son's like 23, and he was like, what was he then? Little. He was a little kid then. So anyway, I would take them with me, and I would request to be sat in a chair to get my blood taken, where I could see through the little window, and they would sit, and I would be like, hold your brother's hand, sit here. And I started out going like at first every 2 weeks to get my blood taken. I'd just sit there. I was like, I didn't even know they were taking my blood. I was just watching my kids to make sure they were being good, which they were. And they take my blood, and then we go. And then I could go on, but like when I first, before I had my thyroid out, was it before I had my thyroid out? Yeah. And it was so hot that summer. Oh my goodness. Sort of like what we're having now. And the heat greatly affects thyroid people. And I would have to park and walk into the hospital to see my doctor. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die in the parking lot. They're just going to find me dead in the parking lot like roadkill. And I'm like, no, just park as close as you can get. And then if you start feeling like you can't breathe, just call 911. The hospital's right there. That's how I would console myself. It sounds insane to think that now. But I didn't have anybody to go with me. And there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, you could do, and he was working for the crazy lady then. And so I would just walk in, and I was like, I'm going to die in a hospital parking lot. And then I'd have to go like up this tiny little coffin type elevator and down all these crazy halls. It just felt like a nightmare. All while I was so sick. And the good thing about that is if I'm ever doing something now that stresses me out, I just go, remember, you made it through that. You can make it through this. So, but it's been a crazy ride.
And we've been married now. It'll be 26 years in October.
Yes.
And we've been through a lot, like you said, in those 26 years. But this is an amazing woman. She's been through so much, handled so much, endured so much. And sometimes it just takes some strength just to persevere, and also willingness to make a change and to try something new, like with the carnivore. And
I think being a mom helps with that because you're like, I can do anything for my kids and I got to be there for my kids. So for me, I was just always, I have to be there for my kids. I have to do whatever it takes. I've got to be there for my kids. I remember thinking, I just want to see my kids grow up. I want my kids to have a home.
seems like the big theme lately is the why. Why do you do carnivore? Why do you do this way of eating? And this is one of my whys right here. It's also, the big W, my wife, but it's my main why. My other why are my sons. I want to be there for them. I want to be there, beyond these 24 years that he's been alive, or 23 years he's been alive. He'll be 24 in October. And the 19 years for my youngest. I want to be here. That's my why. I started looking into this because we went to the doctor on April the 11th, and you could see the frustration from getting the blood work results and the weight when we went to the doctor's office. And when you see numbers on a scale, it makes you realize certain things. And with her, it was more of losing hope when she saw the scale. With me, it was something's got to change. But she was losing hope because nothing was working. She would eat 15 carbs or less a day, and like, I am just not getting anywhere. I don't get this. My body is just not responding, and I'm still gaining weight. If I go above this, I'm still gaining weight. What am I going to do? And, as a husband, you can only take so much, You're like, there's got to be something I can do. I mean, what can I do to help her? Because, you know, like she just said, happy wife, happy life. If she's frustrated, it's going to be frustrating for everybody else in the house. So that was my quest, basically, to find something. And it's kind of ironic that I ran across the things that I saw about carnivore, because all I did was look out there. I was looking up women, autoimmune, losing weight. And the first video that came up was Dr. Berry interviewing Kelly Hogan. And I watched it. She was gone. And I watched it, and she came back home, and I said, hey, have you ever heard of these people? And she's like, oh, yeah, because I just heard all about it from Keto. But I was like, when I asked her if she'd be willing to try and I'd do it with her, she didn't hesitate. And I mean, the weight loss has been slow, but it's been a loss.
Yeah.
And
it hasn't been a pound a month and then regain it. Pound a month and then regain it.
Yeah, she has not had any weight gain of like 5 pounds or anything. I mean, she doesn't have like I did today, or the other day when I gained 5 pounds in weight. But she has had a steady decrease, which is a blessing. Now she's seen some changes in her body. I mean, I think a lot of it swelling and things like that, but clothes are fitting differently. That's a non-scale victory. Some things that she used to wear years ago, she's putting them back on and like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even get into these. I couldn't even wear this before. Look at this. Look how it's fitting me now. Even with the 15 pounds, it's really, I mean, with the reduction of the weight and the reduction of the inflammation and everything, and I think she's gaining muscle as well because of the added protein. I think
bracelets that used to like one time were almost too big, long time ago. And then they just didn't fit anymore. And I was like, why am I keeping this stuff? And I'm like, well, that little voice inside you that's like, maybe someday. And then there's the voice that's like, get real. But then they went from not fitting to, I might have to dislocate my thumb to get it on, but it would go on. And to now, I just slip them on. Just slip them on. They fit again without, worrying that I'm going to have to go have my father-in-law cut them off or something. So I'm wearing bracelets. I mean, that may seem like a big deal, but it's,
victory.
It's a victory. Jackets are loose. Pants that I haven't been able to fit into. And so I'm seeing changes.
You are?
Yeah.
Now, what would you say is the biggest thing you've seen with me?
As far as changes?
Well, just since we started this diet, besides the weight loss.
I've seen a lot more energy. A lot more energy. More willingness to do things, just to even go somewhere. And just like a pep in his step. His whole countenance just seems different to me. Just kind of happier, more lighthearted, and just a peppiness and an energy about you that I haven't seen in forever, in a long time.
And what about when we go to the store?
Oh yeah, used to if we go to the store, his back would hurt, and I could tell he'd start out, and then he was like, ooh, he'd have to stop and kind of ooh, lean against something, and now he's just booking it through the store.
Leaving you behind, kind of.
There's times before I got so, years ago when we used to go out more, and I'd be like, hey, you have long legs. I am short. Slow down or I will meet you there because I cannot keep up. So, but yeah, he gets in the store now and he's, zooming around and just sort of like an excitement about life again, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I could say the same about you as far as the excitement for life.
Yeah.
You have hope again.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it gets discouraging when you don't see another pound come off and so forth, but it does come off.
Yeah. If you're sticking to it and you're doing everything right, with this diet, I feel like, okay, I'm going to see results. Before felt like I was sticking to it, doing everything right, but I was like, okay, this is insane. I'm not seeing results, and it's just very frustrating. But now I'm like, hey, if I stick to it, I feel like it's gonna happen. I feel like it's gonna happen. I'm gonna see another pound drop, and sure enough, another pound will drop. Or I'll be like, I should try on those pants, and I'm like, no. And then I try them on. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're loose. So even if you don't always see the weight, you see the difference in your body.
Now, you were a chicken lady. I mean,
Oh yeah.
chicken was our main diet. Occasionally we'd have some beef every once in a while, but not often. Now we talked about this the other day. You were talking about that. You would, how did you feel after eating eating beef for a while? And when you went back to eating some chicken.
Yeah. At first he would be like, here's some roast. And I was like, you're trying to push all this beef on me. And I was like, oh, it's just so strong. And but then like slow, how they say something becomes a habit the longer you do it. Slowly but surely, instead of craving chicken or thinking, I'll make some chicken or wild chicken, I'd be like, oh, I want a hamburger. Does this sound good? A hamburger sounds good. And Or I'd be like, ooh, I want a steak. A steak sounds good. And I used to get the rotisserie chickens all the time at Sam's Club. And I mean, we just ate those a lot. It was convenient.
The casserole.
Even a keto casserole or something. It was convenient or whatever. So then we've been eating more beef, and we hadn't even got any of those in a long time. My poor Chihuahua, she was going through withdrawal. She's like, "Where's the chicken?" And we hadn't got one in a while, and we went there to get some meat. And we're like, we'll pick up a chicken. A chicken. I'm like, Paisley, my Chihuahua, she would appreciate a chicken. So we pick up a chicken and come home, and I'm like, I need something to eat. We needed to cook some meat, so I got some chicken. I was like, ugh. This doesn't taste like I remember it.
It wasn't as satisfying either.
Nasty. It's kind of dry and flavorless, and it was just funny because used to I would have been like, ooh, chicken, But yeah, it's weird how you change, Like I'll be just like cleaning house or doing something. I'm like, I want to steak. And it's so weird because if you knew me, you would know that would not be a normal thought for me. I mean, I might be like, I want an In-N-Out burger, but I wouldn't be like,
That's pretty much the biggest part of our beef was In-N-Out Flying Dutchman.
Yeah, not very often, but
or their animal
every once in a while, if I was out and about and I was starving, I'd go through
that would be your beef part.
We do gluten free, and that was about my beef. But once in a while, we make a roast.
Yeah, I'm just talking in general. If you ate out or anything, it was either chicken on a salad or, I mean, if we're having, yeah. And so to go from Flying Dutchman at In-N-Out to eating ribeye or New York strip.
I told him the other day, I go, this is okay, I'm 55. I know you're shocked. But I'm 55 and I go, I think this is the most beef. If you added up every bite of beef I've had in my whole life, this is probably from April to now would be the most beef I've eaten in my whole life.
Yeah.
My whole life. I don't think I've ever eaten this much beef, and I'm fine with it. I mean,
it took the ox bile, but to get you adjusted.
I'm not mad about it. I like it. I think just a lot is just what you tell yourself. If you go into something going, oh, I have to eat meat, only meat, then you're gonna have a negative attitude about it. But if you go into it going, hey, this is good for me, and I'm gonna do what's good for me. And now when you look around at things, since we've been doing this, I mean, with keto too, I did, but keto has that aspect where they sort of keep the junk in if you're not careful, because you're like, it's a keto cookie. I mean, is that even food, some of that stuff? The chips, I would eat the chips, and then I always felt kind of like ick afterwards. But I was like, hey, it's got the cheese dust. It's in the little package, and hey, I could probably buy meat for the same price as this little container of 4 bags of chips.
I had this little bag that was like $2.50.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts.
You could buy 2 hamburger patties for the same.
Exactly. If you really loaded up, if you went and bought protein bars and chips and cookies and maybe cereal, you could go get meat for the same. It's just so much mindset. It's so much mindset that you get in. And if I'm hungry now, I'm like, I'll think, ooh, I'm hungry. And I'm like, am I really hungry? And sometimes I'm not really hungry. Sometimes I'm just kind of feeling that old snacky thing comes along. But sometimes I'm like, I am hungry. So I'm like, okay, what do I want? So I'll go in there and we try and keep, Ron's really good. That's the other thing about keeping meat cooked up. So I'll go in there and get hamburger patty. Have a hamburger patty, and then I'm good to go. But every once in a while I'll have that thing where I'm like, oh, I'm hungry, and I'm like, oh, something snacky sounds good, but I'm like,
or you want a crunch?
A crunch, or it's those
just
old
those things that you're used to.
It really is those old habits that start when we're kids, chips or
you're more of a texture person than I am.
I am a texture person.
So whereas I would probably crave sweets more or something like that, or because I have that carb addiction thing, You're more of, I want something that will, other
I'm a
than
very
something
specific
chewy.
kind of person. Like, oh, I'm a very black and white person in general anyway. So, I mean, my brain, you know, is kind of like, cereal sounds so good. Cereal. I'm like, don't need it. And the one thing I learned with being gluten free is I just tell myself, I can't have that. And that's what I started when I was gluten free. I remember one time my son was in the cart at the grocery store, and I was like, I don't eat that much gluten. Or when I first started going gluten free, or I don't eat that much carbs. I don't really, you tell yourself these things. So my son got the free cookie at Kroger that they give little kids, and he's like, Mommy, I don't want it. And I go, okay, I'll eat it. And then I was like, oh, first of all, I can't eat it. I'm gluten free. Second of all, really do eat more things like that. When you stop eating it, you realize, when the kids were little, I'd sit down to watch a talk show in the afternoon and go, I just had a few crackers. Just like these habits. Are you really hungry or just like to, that's my thing, like sit in front of TV and have crackers or chips or a few cookies and some hot tea. It's a lot of habits that go into our eating.
Yeah.
Or traditions or, weird little, I mean, think about the Golden Girls. Every night they sit down and have cheesecake. That's what we do. So it's really retraining. One day I had to look up something on the computer. I mean, like I was looking for something we needed to buy, and I was kind of doing the shopping thing when you're comparing. And I was just like thinking about how I used to sit there and scroll and have like a snack. I'm like, but I was like, am I hungry though? Or am I just wanting to sit down and scroll and have a snack? And I had a little piece of steak left over that I didn't finish the night before. So I was like, no, I am hungry. So I went and cut it into little squares. And while I was scrolling, I ate my little thing of steak. And it was better than any bowl of crackers. And that little piece of steak cut up into little bits satisfied, my hunger. And I was fine till dinner. But so much as habits or just things we've done our whole lives.
Right. And one thing too is some people can eat the same thing over and over again, kind of like Dave Mack does. He eats beef and eggs. That's pretty much, or hamburger, I should say, ground meat and eggs. Some people can do that over and over again and have no issue. But there's other people that have to have something different because they can only take so many hamburger patties or so much ground meat or so many steaks or something, until it just gets kind of old. So you're more that way than I am.
I'm more that way, yeah.
But the thing is to swap it out. Eat what you want for as long as you want, then go to something else. Go to a steak, go to a roast.
I'm like, hamburgers sound really good. So we'll find hamburger meat on sale, and we're like, well, we'll make a bunch of hamburgers. And they'll eat hamburgers for days, and I'm like,
I'm tired of this.
If I eat one more hamburger, I'm gonna go insane. I'm gonna go cuckoo.
I need something different. Give me something.
I gotta have something different.
Whereas I could keep eating the hamburger.
This was really funny. The other day, he made the keto the carnivore mashed potatoes.
Carnivore mashed potatoes. Chris Cooking
Nashville's carnivore mashed potatoes. And I had eggs for breakfast, eggs and bacon. And then he's like, oh, I made egg salad the other day. There's egg salad in the fridge. And I'm like, I don't want eggs for lunch. I had eggs for breakfast. And he's like, okay, whatever. And he was working. So he went in the bedroom, was working. And he came out and he goes, what did you ever have for lunch? And I go, oh, yeah, I had some meat and those carnivore mashed potatoes. I go, which are eggs. So I guess I really did have eggs. I had eggs for lunch.
But they were a different texture.
They were disguised as
potatoes. They tricked your mind into thinking they were.
But it was so funny because I was like, ugh. I don't want eggs again for lunch. And I went in there and fixed myself a plate of eggs.
Yeah.
Disguised as mashed potatoes.
Disguised. It was incognito eggs. Yes. But anyway, just switch it up. Change what you got, what you're eating.
And if you're hungry, eat, because that's the other thing I've noticed. I'll start thinking about other foods when I'm really hungry. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to stop. I'll be, fooling with the dogs or doing something. And I'm like, I'll start craving like a cookie or some kind of garbage. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds so good. Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. And I'm like, okay, stop. Why are you doing this? I'm like, because I'm hungry. because I am hungry. I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'll be in the middle of something. I'm like, I'm going to go get a piece of meat and eat something, and then it's gone. Then that
And you
really
may not
helps.
eat the whole thing. You
Yeah.
put the rest of it in the
I just
refrigerator.
put the rest. If I don't eat the whole thing, then I put the rest in. Then I can have it, like I said, for a snack. Or the other day for breakfast, I had eggs, some leftover bacon, and a little piece of leftover steak from my dinner the night before. That was my breakfast, and I was starving at breakfast, so that worked out perfect. But I didn't eat it all for dinner because I wasn't starving at dinner. So,
Well, the biggest thing I've seen probably in you, the difference is that you do have the hope. You do have more energy. I would say also that I've seen a change in your overall look and how you are in your overall body. It's
I'm so tater totty. I was like, I'm so short.
I'm a pear or I'm an apple. I'm an apple, right? It's all right in here. It's like I'm just all up here. So I'm an apple.
It's just.
I mean, I'm the Fruit of the Loom apple. Is what I am.
He's laughed when I was like pregnant with our kids. He would just laugh because like I have no torso. And then one time we were sitting in the hall because we had a tornado warning, and I had my legs straight out. And he was like laughing at me. I'm like, why are you laughing? He goes, you have no legs. I'm like, okay, so I have no legs and no torso. What am I?
Well, you're 4'8". What can you expect?
Tater tot.
But anyway, her whole body composition has changed and everything. So I've seen that that's a physical aspect that I've seen actually change. She says, what do you say I used to do when I would walk into a room?
Oh, I mean, I didn't say this in a mean way. I never said this mean to him, ever, ever, ever. But I said his stomach entered before he did because he gains it all. He's all the top of his body, where I'm a tater tot and it just goes everywhere. He's
Like I said, the Fruit of the Loom apple.
He gets it
Got
right,
the legs, but
chest, stomach, and his stomach. I mean, his stomach has gone down so it's so flat compared to what it used to be. He's lost so much stomach. Um, and then I'm gut and butt because I'll try something on and I'll look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, that looks good. Oh, I like that. I look pretty good. It's not bad, Laura. You just have to accept your body. You've been through a lot. And then I turn to the side and I'm like, oh my goodness. Because it's like gut, butt, gut and butt. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. Because I got the, both like sticking out both areas. But I have dresses that I put on now, and they used to, right up in the back, and now they like go all the way down. Or dresses that I used to put on that was like, gonna need the jaws of life. And are they perfect now? No, but they like I put them on and they go down my whole body. So we're getting there. I think like another month or two, and some of those dresses are gonna be fine. So we're doing it. So anyway.
So there are going to be things that you're not expecting, body changes and things like that. I've lost 24, a little over 24 inches, almost
Probably
25
more
inches.
now. We need to measure.
Probably, but we measured her about a month ago. We'll measure her again as she keeps losing weight, and we'll have that information in October. We're both going to get our blood work because she wants to see our doctor wants to see where we're at on the carnivore. We told our doctor about it, and she wants to do our blood work again in October. That'll be 6 months. So we're going to do our blood work again. All her blood work numbers were fine. She was like, I believe you were 5.7 on your A1C.
Yeah.
And I was a 5.9. And her fasting glucose was, I think, 108 at the time. And mine was around that same. Mine was about 114.
My doctor was really happy with everything.
Yeah, with the liver and kidneys and everything. Everything was good back in April. But she wants to do it again just to see where we're at. Her cholesterol was all fine and everything.
Oh, and the other thing I was going to mention is, how I said this is probably the most beef I've eaten. Well, this is probably the longest. I was telling Ron this last night. This is probably the longest I've ever been without some form of a keto sweet or some kind of sweet. I haven't had no keto cookie, no keto treat, no, nothing. And I think this is the longest I've ever been in my life. Oh, and I haven't died. And I mean, I'm really fine. I don't really plan on.
Probably the fact that we've eliminated it has helped a lot with that, like it has with me.
Yeah.
That we've
Because
eliminated
the
all
more
those
you
artificial things.
the more you want it.
Yeah.
We used to sit there eating a keto dessert going, that really sounds good. That pie we used to have back at that restaurant we were dating. As we're eating the keto dessert, you know.
Weird.
It was like it just fed the desire for something really good. So
We're eating something very fake.
yeah, it's like it looks like it, but it tastes like I'm eating maybe a scented candle. We made this one Thanksgiving. We made this dessert. It was like a chocolate pudding, pumpkin pudding, like a pumpkin pie-ish puddingy thing, and then like a cream layer and a crust. And in the comments on the thing, it's like, oh my gosh, I make this every year. It's so delicious. It was like better than sex dessert. So I'm like, we'll make it. It's not a lot of baking. You just got to mix up all these different layers, which ended up taking eternity. Anyway, we got all this effort. Each layer, it was just like mixing a bit. It did not taste like anything. It was like eating air. We were like,
Did we miss
I
something?
want it to be there, but I'm like, we might as well just have eaten some whipped cream. It would have tasted better. There was literally no flavor in any of it. It was awful. I think we ended up throwing it away
Yeah, we did.
because it was just
Blah.
ugh. It was money and work and no flavor. So
Yeah.
I think that was one of the last things we made.
But if you got any questions for us, put them in the comments. Should be glad to answer anything that comes up that you might have about thyroid issues, autoimmune issues, things like that, and what the doctors told her. I wanted y'all to get to meet her. They have her back again. If y'all want her back, let me know, and I'll be glad to have her back. I'm sure she'd be willing to do it.
I'd be willing to.
But we just wanted to give you an opportunity to meet her. To know basically this is the woman behind overcoming carbs. This is the inspiration for overcoming carbs, the reason why it's all started, and the reason why I started my weight loss, and that's because of her. And we just want to thank you for watching. And if you like it, press that like button. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe. And tell your friends about it. Tell your friends about carnivore. Tell your friends about this way of eating, because there are so many people out there that has done so much for. There are so many people out there that have benefited from this. It's not just two of us sitting here. It's not
And it's
just
not just
us.
about weight loss even.
It's not. It's about
a better life.
getting your life back, getting your
Yes.
health back, restoring what doctors don't do, because they're not going to push the diet. They're not going to push this way of eating. I mean, if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it. And no doctor's going to tell you, hey, let's do the carnivore. Let's try that instead of doing medication. I'm sorry, but if you find one, that's great, but you're going to have to do this on your own. You're going to have to step out there, and you're going to have to be the one that says, I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to take control of everything I do. And I'm going to be the one to decide what I'm going to be and what I'm going to become.
My doctor has said she has patients that come to her and go, and she's like, maybe you need to work on, as I said, she tries to kind of get to know you and decipher what's going on to help you. She wants to help you. And she doesn't just, handing out drugs. And she said she will literally have people come and she'll be like, well, your blood pressure's up and you're borderline diabetic. And they're like, you know what? I don't want to hear about diet. I don't want to hear about exercise. Can you just give me a pill? And she's like, I would prefer to see you turn your life around, you not have to be on medicine. And she said, but some people, they just literally want to come to the doctor, get a pill, walk out the door, and take medicine and not have to change their lifestyle. She
And
said,
there is no magic pill that's going to restore your life.
no.
The only thing that's going to restore your life or restore who you are is what you can do with your own body. That's through the proper
And you're worth
nutrition.
it.
You
You are worth it.
She is.
Yeah.
I am. Our
And
kids are working.
sometimes you have to be your own cheerleader or your own motivator, you know? Sometimes you might not have that person in your corner, but sometimes you have to do it for yourself. You have to say, hey, I'm worth it. Think about the life you want, not just where you're at now, but just focus on the life you want and take it a baby step at a time, making those changes.
I love this woman. She's my light, and this is all for her. And we thank you for listening and hearing our story. And we hope you get something from this, that you get something out of this. And we'll be back with you again soon. Thanks for watching.